Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be giving my first impressions and a little flip through of the Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game. So I just recently picked this up from my local game store. I never heard of the role-playing game before. I've heard of the Talisman board game, but I've never actually had a chance to play it. I know it's been around for quite a while. I think I saw somewhere it's like 40 plus years that the board game's been around. So anyway, this just looked like an interesting thing to pick up. And, always want to support my local game store. And so here we are. And when I say that I'm going to be giving my first impressions, I really do mean it because this is still actually in the shrink wrap. So it's still completely sealed up. The retail price on this was $49.99 US. Here in Canada, at least here in Nova Scotia, it was $64.99 plus tax. On the back, it says, begin your exploration of the realm with the core rulebook for the Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game. Magical forests, treacherous mountains, deadly dungeons, and more await you between these pages. Begin your adventures as any of 10 classes: assassin, druid, minstrel, priest, prophet, scout, sorcerer, thief, warrior, or wizard, and 7 ancestries. So this is one of the things I actually thought was kind of cool. So you have your elf, dwarf, human, but then you also have ghouls, laywalkers, trolls, and sprites as default available right off the bat from the core rulebook races for you to actually play. So I thought that was kind of neat. The Talisman Adventures rules are fast-paced, easy to learn, and feature a new 3d6 Adventures rule set. With these rules, the players take the lead and determine the action as their characters explore magical new lands, encounter enigmatic strangers, and do battle against terrible monsters. This book provides a multitude of enemies, strangers, followers, mysterious locations, and magic items to include in your adventures, forbidden knowledge, and fabulous treasures. Perhaps even the fabled talisman of the great wizard await the daring and heroic. To play this game, you'll need a few friends, 3 six-sided dice, 2 to 4 hours, and your imagination. So I did look up a little bit about the rule set online. And essentially it is a 3d6 system. It's not quite the same as the age system, but it's the basic idea that you have 3 dice, 2 of which are identical, and the third one that stands out, although the third one is a little bit different in the way that it functions. Like, depending on the number rolled on it, can affect or increase the rates of success, stuff like that. What's also interesting, and it's similar to like the Symbaroum role-playing game, in that it's a system where the game master really doesn't you need to pick up or really ever roll any dice. So when the person attacks, basically they do their roll, and depending on what they get, they either deal damage or take damage. It seems like it's going to be kind of an interesting system, and something that I kind of appreciate because I tend to roll pretty atrociously. So especially when I'm DMing or GMing. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of neat the way that it's done. So I'll learn a little bit more about the rule set in depth at a later time. I have a bunch of stuff that's sort of taking priority as far as reviews go, but I just wanted to do sort of a quick, simple video, just flipping through and just showing off the book at least a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is get the plastic off, and we'll get right into it. All right, so the shrink wrap is off. So the book, it's kind of nice, like the cover. It's sort of like a matte cover, but there are sections there that actually have like where the characters are, where it says Fantasy Role-Playing Game Core Book, the Talisman logo, all of that, and the Pegasus Spiel, which is the publisher of this. That is all sort of in like a glossy, it's got like a gloss covering coating to it. So I always kind of like that. It reminds me sort of like the 4th edition D&D rule books, because they had the same thing. They had like the matte covers, but they would have like certain things emphasized by giving them sort of like that glossy coating to really make them sort of pop out, especially when the light hits it. And then on the back we have this again. We have the glossy coating just over this one sort of skeletal warrior. But again, it looks, it feels cool. I know I've always sort of liked that approach to rule books, so I like it. And then inside, inside looks like we've got some tokens. So that's good to know. Like I said, this is the first time I'm opening this up. They'll probably be explained later on in the book, but some look light, some look dark. So it might be, I don't know if it's like a morality system. Like I said, I'm very, very bare bones knowledge of this system at this point. But overall, I do like the feel of the pages. Again, you got sort of like the glossy pages on the inside of the book. There's sort of like a nice quality to them. So from just a physical production sense, I think that they did a pretty good job here. It also has, I don't know if you can see it down there or not, but it does also have like the fabric bookmarks built into it. So that can definitely be useful as well. Inside, we got our table of contents. We got the player's guide. And then we have, eventually we've got the Game Master's Guide here as well. So that's book 2. So this is one of those sort of like all-in-one RPG books. So your player's guide and your game master's guide all in one. And I think for like newer games or smaller companies putting out games, I definitely think that's the way to do it. The less you have to buy in initially, the easier it is for someone to want to give it a try, right? So I do appreciate when you can sort of get these all-in-one RPG books. And this seems to be, again, along those lines. So we've got like the history of the realm, so you get a little bit of setting information for the players, rules of the game, including combat. Again, I'm not going to go over all that here, but then we've got our characteristics and skills. So one of the interesting things about this system is that it has 2 attributes. So your attributes are strength and craft, and I think each of those 2 attributes has like different aspects underneath that you can use when you're rolling. So yeah, really cool stuff. And then we've got, again, our Game Master's Guide. So, like I said, I'm not going to go through everything super thoroughly here, but we got some really nice artwork, actually. I do like this. And it's always cool to see, like, artwork where it looks like you've got, like, the people sitting around the table, like the actual players, and then in the background, like, you know, what they're imagining their characters are doing. I've always liked art like that, even if it's not as, you know, fancy looking as this. It's just always been kind of cool to see stuff like that. So, yeah, really do like that. Yeah, lots of, like I said, really decent art. I really like that dragon as well. So yeah, this is something that I'm really interested to learn a little bit more about. And I don't know, like, I know one of the players in my regular, like, monthly RPG sessions, it gets... he might be a little annoyed that I keep picking up new systems because I've managed to talk him into at least a few things that he wasn't interested in the past. So I do apologize, but, you know, it's all good. At least, you know, the money's going to something, you know, entertaining. So eventually, like I said, I'd like to give this a try, but I don't know if I'll be running like long-term campaigns or even just a one-off once I sort of learn a little bit more about it. So with the 3d6 system, the dice that stands out is called the Kismet dice. So I'm just going to read the little description here right off the bat. And those tokens are actually for fate tokens. So you have light fate and dark fate. So I'm sure that they play a role as you progress through the stories. But the Kismet dice says, the Kismet dice can have a radical effect on the task you attempt. As mentioned in the previous section, the Kismet dice is a die with a different color. And as a Canadian, I do like the fact that color is spelled the way that I spell it. So a different color when you use when you make your test. The Kismet die is added to the other dice as normal, but if a 1 or a 6 is rolled, dark fate or light fate is generated. Oh, right, okay. So light fate, I think light fate is something that the players can use to like alter their die rolls or retry tasks. Stuff like that, but the dark fate actually goes to the game master that the game master can then use to make complications. So it's kind of like with another RPG that I have that I really want to run one of these days, Star Trek Adventures, you have momentum and threat. So momentum is something on the player side that they can use to bolster their rolls or to try to succeed where they may have failed before. But threat is what the game master can use to add enemies, to make things more difficult to overcome, things like that. So it's sort of a similar system, I think, to that, and that's kind of neat. Yeah, so I think if you roll a 1, you generate dark fate, and if you roll a 6, I think it is, you generate light fate. And then we have movement. So each round you can move a number of meters equal to your speed. So this probably wasn't designed in the US, but that's fine. Again, meters and U's and words are what I'm used to, so it's kind of nice to see every once in a while. Yeah, so it looks like there is like a defined movement, speeds and stuff like that. So some of these RPGs will use just abstract categories, but this one looks like you actually have pretty defined movement categories. And since this is an RPG derived from a board game, it does make sense that they would sort of go that way. Yeah, so combat, again, the players are the only ones that actually make the rolls, and depending on what they roll, it dictates sort of what happens, if they take damage, if their opponent takes damage, and that's something, like I said, I really want to learn a little bit more about here. Actually, let's just take a look at what we got here. So attack melee, so if you roll during a melee attack, you roll during a melee attack not only determines if you damage your opponent, but also whether they injure you. On a failure, the enemy you are attacking hits you for its full damage. If you rolled a 1 on the Kismet dice, or if the Game Master decides to spend 1 Dark Fate, your opponent may even use a special ability on you. If you get a standard success or better, you hit your opponent, but unless you get a greater success or better, your opponent gets to strike back. Okay. So failure, you inflict no damage to the target, but your target hits you for full damage. Standard success, you hit your target for full damage, but your opponent hits you for half their damage. Roll the damage and then add the damage modifier, then have the damage rounding up. Great success, your attack is a complete success. You inflict full damage on your target and your opponent does not get an action. And then an extraordinary success, your attack is a complete success. In addition to inflicting full damage and emerging unscathed, you can cause your opponent additional harm. The exact measure of this additional injury is up to the Game Master, although the player can make suggestions. So you can add extra damage, you can knock them down, stun them, or inflict a wound. So anyway, kind of interesting. Like I said, it's sort of like the GM oversees things, but the players are the ones doing all of the dice rolling, which I think is kind of neat. And then for armor, we have armor points and armor penalty. So I think armor points might be, is it like a damage reduction? The armor points column shows the amount of damage armor reduces from a physical attack before it's applied to you. Okay. And then you have to refit and repair your armor as well. So I'm not going to get into that here in this video, but again, it looks like armor reduces damage instead of flat out necessarily preventing it. So again, kind of neat. And then what I want to see here are the different races and classes. So again, we got quite a bit of information here. We got our ancestry. So here we have our dwarf, and you have different backgrounds. So you can roll or choose. So that's kind of cool. If you want to be extra random with your character creation, you can do that. So the backgrounds are, I guess, they're kind of almost like the heritages from like Pathfinder 2e, I think. So they further modify the ancestry of the race. Then we have elves. So the elves in Talisman, from what I understand, are more like the wood elves. Like they don't have like the high elves necessarily, like that are like these are the ones that are very in tune to nature and stuff like that. So they're not quite the same as like having, you know, the split between high elves and wood elves and all of that. And there's our ghoul. So if you want to play a ghoul, if you want to play an undead, that is something that you can do in this game by default, which is pretty cool. I have to say, I like that. Each of the races as well gives you like sort of their perspective. So I guess the way they view the world and their actions. So again, really cool stuff. And there's the Ley Walker. Ley Walkers are manifestation of the inherent magic of the realm, also known as Children of the Portal. They're deeply connected to the magical webs of power that crisscross the realm. So cool. And they sort of have like a very satyr appearance to them, which is cool. We got the sprite. Yeah, it's awesome stuff. And there we got our troll. And I think the troll actually does have, I think they do actually regenerate. Yeah, regeneration. All trolls can regenerate. When you roll looks like a 6 on the Kismet dice during combat, you immediately regenerate 1d6 life or 1 wound. Out of combat, you regenerate 1d6 life or 1 wound per hour. So cool. And we got our classes. So Assassin right off the bat. That's just available as a standard player character class. So again, that's really cool. It's been a long time since I've seen a core rulebook RPG where the Assassin was a full-on class and available from the onset of like the very first release of the role-playing game. Then we got our Druids, the Priests, and not a lot in terms of the description for the classes, so it should be pretty easy to digest, hopefully. Which is great for me because trying to learn new systems with all the different systems I'm trying to keep straight in my brain all at once, it's really going to come in handy to have them be pretty straightforward. Then we got the Sorcerer, the Thief, the Warrior, the Troll Warrior looks really cool. Then we got the Wizard, and character advancement. So yeah, this all looks really cool. I know I keep saying that. This is like so. This is my very first experience with with this. But yeah, it looks interesting. Looks like it's got a 10-level progression, which is something similar to the 13th Age system that I just picked up. Has 10 levels of progression, but again, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, looks like we got some really special abilities. So I like the Manhunter, Blade of the Moon, Blade of the Hungry Dark. I like some of the names of some of the stuff that they have here too. So like really interesting. Thunderous Orator. And there is our... Oh, there we go. And there is our bookmark. And it looks like we got advanced abilities for each of the classes as well, which is good to know. So we got tools, market goods. It just, yeah, it looks like this is going to be a really interesting book to sit down and read. I don't know how soon I'm going to get a chance to do that. Like I said, I have a handful of products that were sent to me that I'm, putting my my priorities on. But this is something that I am really interested in. And at some point, I really got to stop myself from buying new RPGs. I guess animals are first. Or okay, I just want to see what the dragons look like. Essentially, we got cultists and outlaws, animals, goblinoids, the kobolds, ogres. There's the basilisk. Again, pretty small stat blocks as well. Kind of has, it does have a little bit of an old school feel with seeing like multiple short stat blocks all on a single page. Banshees, so we got some spirits, so apparitions, banshees, barrow-wights, ghosts, shadow specter, will-o'-the-wisps. The Death Knight, that is an awesome looking Death Knight. Death Knights are some of my favorite undead. We got putrid zombies. Here's some dragons. Oh man, I like these. These look awesome. I love that one there too. I'm a sucker for dragons and wyverns. So we got dragons and woodland drakes, word dragons. So dragons who lurk too long in the deep forest where the Fae mark their territory are changed by the exposure to the strange and wild magics. Okay, interesting. And then the good old-fashioned wyverns. We got our elementals, the Fae, Brownie, Boggart, the Fomorians, Redcaps. Awesome stuff. And looks like a map here in the back as well. And just some like treasures, stuff for designing adventures. I think this might be, yeah, so it does actually come with a written adventure that you can start. So maybe that's something I'm going to try to do at some point. Once I get the opportunity to learn a little bit more about this, is maybe I'll try to see if I can get together a group to try out the built-in adventure. But yeah, awesome stuff. We got just our index at the back. We got our character sheets. Oh, looks like we even have some pre-made characters. Okay. So that would also be handy when it comes to running the built-in adventure. So yeah, you got the ready-made characters. all the stuff that you would need there. So yeah, there's the Talisman board game, and then yeah, and then we have just the blank character sheet at the back here. And again, we've got our map. It also has a built-in holder on the back cover there for the map, so that's a nice little detail that you don't see too often. And it's a pretty simple map, but that's fine. That's the kind of map that you would want to give your players. Yeah, so overall, I think that this is a pretty decent quality product, and you know, for the price, you know, I think it's worth it for me. I'm gonna get a few hours of reading out of it, and hopefully even get the chance to run a few sessions of this. So, like I said, I don't have a ton of information on the system yet. This is literally me looking through the book for the very first time. And just sort of giving you my thoughts as I go. But if any of you have actually, you know, purchased this as well or had a chance to run it, let me know in the comments below what some of your experiences have been. What do you think of the system? Have you tried it out? Are you interested in picking it up? I will be doing a review at some point, but there are several other things that I have reviews for that I need to get out of the way first. So this will probably be something that I review once we get to the fall, but we'll see. Hopefully I might be able to squeeze it in somewhere. But yeah, there it is. That my flip through, not complete flip through, but just a you know, quick flip through, and very first impressions, like immediately first impressions of the book. Like I said, good quality. The pages are nice quality to them. I love the glossy. The pages, the built-in bookmark is great. It feels like a nice, solid, quality product. The fact that there's a little holder for the map in the back, I think that is really cool. And yeah, the book even came with tokens that you can use. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent offering, and I look forward to learning a little bit more about it. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Take care.